G'day, everyone. Welcome back or welcome to another Toon podcast. We were the Southern Hemisphere's biggest podcast. I'm just going to take it upon myself now to say we're the biggest Newcastle United podcast outside of the UK now. Everything here, your one-stop shop for your Sela Cup champions. Craig, how are you tonight, my friend?
I'm cracking, mate. We've got another trophy out of that
Another
cabinet,
one.
and it's going
Absolutely.
not being long before it's all full now, eh?
Yeah. Get the first one out of the way straight away. So, for those of you who have been sleeping under a rock or been off social media probably over the weekend, the preseason's over now. Newcastle undefeated, Craig, in the preseason.
Yep.
With another bumper weekend at St James's Park, the doubleheader, which we done last year as well, I think, from memory.
We did.
Yeah, so that wrapped up. We had a 2-0 win against Fiorentina on Saturday and then a 4-0 win, cementing our Sela Cup triumph yesterday. We'll get stuck into the games briefly. But before we kick off any further, we're just going to have a little bit of a sub push trying to get to 1,400 before the season starts this week. We're on 1,389 now, so we need 11 more subscribers. If you know anyone who watches us that's not subscribed, tell them to jump on. We really love to hit 1,400 before kickoff on Saturday and just keep growing the channel and stuff like that. So we want to be the biggest and best podcast outside of the UK for Newcastle United. So the more subs we get, the bigger we get, the better interviews we can get and everything like that. So if you're not subscribed, just click that button down there. Give us a like and a comment while you're there. We interact with everyone. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. And if we could hit 1,400 before kickoff, that would be absolutely incredible, Craig.
It would be absolutely amazing, mate. So if you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe.
Yes, thank you very much. Righto, mate. We'll get stuck in to the weekend. The prestigious, absolutely prestigious Sela Cup presented by Visit Malta. Can't forget them as well. So we kicked off on Saturday, Craig, with a 2-0 win over Fiorentina at home. I believe Miggy and Isak were the scorers. Isak with the assist to Miggy as well. We've been crying that Eddie would like 2 starting 11s for this season, and I reckon we're just about there, mate. What do you reckon?
Yeah, we're not far off, that's for sure. There's still one or two bits of rust in the squad, which is to be expected, and still one or two bits of players that probably still need to either be shifted on or we just need to upgrade them effectively. The likes of Dummett, Richie, those types of players are probably not going to get a look in much this season, especially not in the league. So it's good to get a bit of game time, getting the rust out of the legs, but they do need to be upgraded just for a bit of touch on depth, which again we will look into later on this pod.
Yeah, and I think I was just more impressed that Dummett has got through a couple of games, to be honest.
Yeah.
Without breaking down or snapping in half or any other injuries that he seems to come across. But the first game, I don't know if you remember much. You probably didn't watch it. It was advertised here in Australia on beIN Sports, but unfortunately, KO they've snatched beIN Sports off their channel now. So I think it's a separate subscription, which I don't think many Aussies are going to pay for anymore, unless you're probably a diehard Scottish Premier League fan. You want to watch Rangers or Celtics. So, yeah, we're not paying for that. So, but it seemed, I think they were pretty balanced 11s, Craig. Would you sort of on the Saturday and Sunday? Do you think that's probably fair?
Yeah. I'd probably say the team on Sunday was just a little bit more aggressive in terms of attack, especially within that midfield. The midfield was just a bit more experienced. I think on Sunday there was a midfield of Tonali, Lewis, Miley, and Anderson. They're all effectively fresh-faced, albeit Anderson has a bit more experience in the Premier League than any others. But on Sunday, midfield there was a Bruno, Big Joe, and Longstaff. So that's an established midfield for us, and that to me was a plus.
Yeah, I think it was really good to see Sean Longstaff back in action as well. I think he'd missed maybe the last 3 games through injuries. So good to see him back and get a 90-minute run out. Just even on Saturday, just circling back to Saturday, it was quite funny. After the game, Twitter had kind of exploded with that. Anthony Gordon has to start the first game and everything like that, and then by full time Sunday, it was Harvey Barnes and
Hmm.
Miggy that start the first game. It's going to be an absolute train wreck for Eddie to try and pick this 11 on this weekend's game against Villa, isn't it?
Oh God, but it's a type of headache you want Eddie to have, rather than a case of can I name X amount of players to actually put on the bench that have kicked the ball before. I can name possibly the best Newcastle bench in God knows how many years since probably Sir Bobby was manager, maybe even before then. Because even back then, we really didn't have a huge amount of depth in the
No, we
squad.
didn't. No.
No.
So
So the depth that we're building is fantastic and it is good to see. And again, a selection headache is only a good thing.
yeah, so the only two players I think that didn't feature on the weekend was Joe Willock and Fabian Schär. Eddie did say in the pre-game press conf Schär was touch and go whether he's going to play this weekend, and I think they've probably just erred on the side of caution, give him another week, and
Did
he'll be
Mankiw get any game time?
No, he didn't. No, but I mean, we'll get to probably why
Yeah.
he didn't get any game time shortly. But yeah. So in terms of that, we're pretty healthy, I reckon. It's going into the
Mm-hmm.
first game with Willock being the only injury concern, I guess, and there's no real timetable for him to return at this stage. We just know it was a serious hamstring injury against Brighton at the end of last season. So fingers crossed he get back to full health and he can really start putting more pressure on Eddie for his selection dissection or selection dilemma. What that sort of leads us, I think, Craig. We're not going to sort of harp too much on the Villa game because we've got Jack on Wednesday or Thursday with his preview with I think one of the Aston Villa guys from
Yeah, we've got a
Australia,
special
which
guest.
which would be great. But I just want to dive into this whole depth thing and what we've just talked about here. So um, we'll start off with our first game last year, I think, Craig. So um, we'll bring it up on the screen now. This was our starting 11. We had Nick Pope in goal, uh, Trippier, Shah, Byrne, and Target as our back four. Willock, Bruno, Joel Linton, and then Almiron, Wilson, and St. Maximin with a front three. So I think we could probably confidently say that Matty Target won't be there. Obviously, Joe Willock won't be there, and St. Maximin won't be there as well. Question marks perhaps on Wilson and Almiron, I think, at this stage. So why we're kind of mentioning this is just to sort of speak about our depth. So our bench for that game, as you can see if you're watching, if not, I'll run it through now. We had Dubravka, Dummett, Botman, Ritchie, Wood, Fraser, Murphy, Anderson, Longstaff on our bench. Um, so what Craig's done today is Craig's stuck his neck out early, which we all love, and that's what we love about Craig. He's never afraid to chuck his head out and put his neck on the chopping block. So Craig's done is actually put his starting 11 for the weekend. Um, so Craig, I'll let you run through your 11, mate. Do you want to go through that for us now?
So Pope in goal, obviously. He's not going to be replaced by Dubravka. I think that's a given. Back four, unless we get any signings in quickly, I can't see that changing. So you got Trips, Shaw, Botman, and Byrne. That's pretty much well established. The midfield, well established as mentioned before, Bruno, Longstaff, and Big Joe. And up front, this is where it gets maybe a little bit controversial. So Bonds up front on the left-hand side, Miggy on the right, in front of Trips as per usual, and Big Dog Alexander Isak up top.
The
So
Slim
that's
Reaper.
the 11 I would go with for, purely on the fact that that pace going forward would be electrifying.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So Craig, you dropped that in our group this afternoon. So I took it upon myself to provide a bench, or could be a bench for the weekend. So when we talk about depth, if this is Craig's bench, this is Craig's 11. This would be my bench. So we would have Dubravka, Lascelles, Target, Tonali, Anderson, Murphy, Gordon, Wilson, and I reckon that obviously Livramento will be announced sometime this week after he was photographed at the game on Saturday. So we think it won't be that far away. So whether he makes a bench or not, we're not sure. That could easily be maybe Manquillo or Kraft. And then we've also got Lewis Miley, who's really impressed over the preseason. I couldn't get him on the bench either. So that speaks volumes about the depth that we have at the moment. And we still have Willick to come back in maybe in perhaps a month or something by the time he gets up to full training and gets himself in a position where he can actually get out on the pitch during a game. It's going to be a really big problem to have.
Yeah, again, it's a good problem to have. The only struggling thing is lack of centre back options because we've only
Yeah,
really got Lascelles. Yes, Byrne can slot into centre back and target, dumb it, or hell forbid, Richie goes in at left back. Worst case scenario, if Richie's playing at left back, something's catastrophically gone wrong. But yeah, so we do have some defensive cover, and like you said, if Livramento is in time, you'd think he'd make the bench. The way Eddie likes to slowly introduce people into the squad, he's not going to throw them in at the deep end. You wouldn't have thought. So yeah, that depth is great, but best of all, we've got depth in attacking options, which is what you want to see. And again, as mentioned,
yeah.
we've got pace up front already, but with the likes of Gordon, Anderson, whatever, all likely come in. Gordon is the second fastest in the Premier League, I think, in top speed.
Oh,
So
right.
bring
Didn't
him
know that.
on with
We got
20 minutes to
Murphy.
go, whatever, with tired legs. He's the type of person you want running at defenders in that press. He could cause a lot
Yeah.
of damage.
So I think the opposite of that, or not the opposite, but you throw Murphy on that other wing for Miggy, there's going to be speed in the game
Yeah,
all the time. So, and with tiring defenders, and you could also perhaps throw Wilson on for the Slim Reaper, and then against tired, sort of fatiguing defenses, he could cause a whole handful of problems with his intelligence and his runs and things like that. I think it's going to be a major weapon for us this year is our depth, especially in the front third, and you could easily interchange like Tonali and Anderson into that midfield three as well at any stage, given their performances over the preseason. I think they've been really impressive. Eddie spoke at length about Tonali, and he's really impressed him during the preseason as well. Pardon me, as well. So he could easily start on the weekend. Um, what I sort of wouldn't mind going into a little bit is something we brought up today that I was staunchly against pre-COVID, and then that was the 3 subs, Craig. So
yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of talk saying, "Oh, it's great we get 5 subs now because we've got some decent players on the bench." I was against it pre-COVID when it was 3. I'm still against it now. I'm not going to change my mind. It's meant to be hard. It's a war of attrition. The only changes I'd like to make into the substitutions with 3 subs is a concussion that's becoming more prevalent now. I think in sport, in any
Definitely.
sport, I guess. Yeah, that uses head and head trauma and things like that. What I would like to see is if a player has sustained a high impact injury to their head, to actually be taken off and maybe taken into the rooms for an assessment, um, and get the doctor to actually assess them properly rather than 3 or 4 minutes out on the ground while they're lying down. Actually take them away and treat them properly. And during that stage, a player can come on to replace
A
the
rolling
player.
sub.
Well, it's kind of so a player can come on while the player's getting assessed. If the player passes all the tests and is fit to resume, then that player just comes off again. And then, or if he's deemed out of action, then that'll just stay how it is now, but it won't count towards your 3 subs, similar to how it is now. So you get 5, but if there's a concussion sub, that actually doesn't count towards your 5. What are your thoughts on that?
The concussion sub is a genuinely good thing. I think that the rolling sub, or however you want to call it, I don't see how that would potentially work in a fast-paced Premier League game. So, I mean, you'd still have to stop play to treat the player. Unlike rugby, where you've got the physios who are allowed to run onto the pitch during play to let play continue. If they were to bring that rule in, then yeah, fair enough. They could then make that rolling sub quite quickly. But you've still got to stop play. You've still got to get the player stripped and ready. And you've then got to get the person off, get assessed and everything. If they could work around it and how quickly they could do those rolling subs, then I don't think it would be the right way for the game to go. I think keep it as it is, albeit with the 3 subs rather than the 5 in the 1 extra concussion sub or however many injury subs that you would need during the game.
Yeah. So what they do now, like as soon as it's a head knock, they stop play. So you're not waiting for the next stoppage. As soon as there's a head knock or anything like that, the referee stops play straight away. So then, like most players are warming up anyway. Like some people spend 90 minutes warming up and not actually get on the ground. So the game stopped. It shouldn't be too long for a player to actually get stripped and get ready. By the time they make sure the player's safe, like no massive head trauma or neck injuries or anything like that. I don't think the game would be delayed that much by the time they actually get off and stuff like that in terms of how it is now. I don't think there'd be much difference. The only difference is they'll actually get assessed properly. And if they do come back on, it would just be like a regular sub. So whenever the break in play is, if that injured player has been deemed to not have a concussion, then as soon as the ball, if they obviously notify the fourth official like a normal substitute would, ball goes out of play or the game stops, then they can make the change for that player to re-enter the field. I honestly don't think it'd be that much of a hindrance or a disruption to the game. And if it is, well, kind of too bad. Like they're the times we live in now where concussions are a really serious problem. And
oh god,
we haven't seen it, but I do remember. I don't know if it was last year, the year before. There was there might have been something over on the UK about CTE with Alan Shearer, and that sort of led to some calls, I guess, for maybe juniors not being able to hit a ball until a certain age and stuff like that to try and preserve their brains. And I think balls have come a little bit further in their technology than what they might have been when young Alan was a kid heading concrete cylinders around after a bit of water and stuff like that. But yeah, I think especially in modern sport now and impact sports, I think sort of the Premier League need to move with the times and sort of allow these players to get assessed properly, because we've seen it at the NFL, and we've also sort of seen the beginnings of it in the AFL. These concussion lawsuits are going to cost sporting organisations billions and billions of dollars. So if they can put some kind of measures and stuff in place to treat people properly and look after them and assess them properly, I think that's only going to be a good thing for the game. And like I said, it's going to be, honestly, it'll be a minimal disruption to the length of the game and stuff like that. And if you believe what you read anyway, mate, like these injury time is going to be back to last year's World Cup in terms of length and with stoppages and all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, like most of this other stuff's Mickey Mouse compared to the seriousness of a high impact injury to the head and things like that. And honestly, if you're going to waste time and stuff like that, that should be a priority. But even, do you know, like, I don't want to go off on a bigger tangent on this, but as soon as that happens, like the referee can just blow the whistle and the clock will stop. So there's no extra added time and things like that. Just the game stops until the person can be sort of safe to move and then get off the ground and stuff like that. So there's plenty of ways they can safely do it with minimal disruptions and not causing 15, 20 minutes of injury time and things like that. So that's something that I'd like to see definitely in the game, and back to 3 subs. But with the money now and things like that, Craig, I don't think we're ever going to go back to 3, unfortunately.
No, it was all brought up by the big clubs, wasn't it? Oh, the big 6 back in the day.
The clubs with the clubs with the fattest squads.
His friends wanting bigger change. I think they just wanted to keep the pace of the game going over the 90 minutes is what they expressed wanted to be, so they can get fresher legs on. But it's just purely advantage for the bigger squad. And we discussed this previously, I think, when the pod was pretty much fresh, to be honest, that yes, it's an advantage to the bigger teams. Yes, it will suit us in the coming months and years and so, but it would be very hypocritical for us as the fan base to now get excited or to want these 5 subs, considering 18 months ago we were bringing on Jeff Hendrick for Joe Willock in that Wolves game before the takeover went on. And I like the idea of being able to bring on an injection of pace when tired legs, everything like that. I do get that idea, but again, hypocritical as a fan base personally.
Yeah, I don't think we can do it either. So, well, I didn't have time to cut this up, Craig, but you shared something in our group just before about it was really interesting. The how long each team celebrates a goal last season. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've got the graphic here, which much to everyone's shock, Newcastle United were the shortest celebrators for the whole season. So, like, you'd think that with the camaraderie and all that, and how much the players seem to love each other, they would celebrate the longest. But in fact, they don't celebrate it enough.
No, I think I also worked out the total time that we celebrated goals in the league. I think it was 70 odd minutes.
Oh yeah, it's got per goal here. So Newcastle averaged 66 seconds celebration per goal.
Yeah.
Crystal Palace were the highest with 84. Arsenal were one of the biggest complainers about our time wasting. Actually, 81 seconds. So nearly.
Have a look at the overall time though. If you scroll down a little bit from there. So Arsenal, they spent nearly 2 hours worth of celebrating in the Premier League last season.
Yeah.
2 hours worth. Yeah. 119 minutes and X amount of seconds celebrating goals in the Premier League. We were 70 plus minutes.
We're 73
in terms of time wasting, I mean, it purely balances out over the course of the season then, surely? Got to.
Yeah. Yeah, it has to. You know, like, it's easy for them to throw stones, but heaven forbid you actually come back at them with some more facts. So don't do that, because they won't take it too well. I'm not sure if the boys spoke about this last week, but the new Premier League rules have only one. The manager is the only one allowed in the technical area now. Could you see Mad Dog perhaps with the NFL, maybe Eddie with a headset as well, and Mad Dog with a headset just talking to each other instead of him sort of yelling and things like that?
I genuinely don't know how they're going to be able to do that, because I mean, managers, they get as excited in the game as what the players do. I mean, could you imagine if Jose Mourinho was still in the league? The way he used to bark orders from the touchline, the way his assistants jumped up every time they should have got a free kick, or there was a yellow card or a goal disallowed or anything that went against them, the whole bench would be up. There's no way they can control that in a manner where it's only Eddie Howe versus another manager in their own box at any one time. It'll just be a farce, to be honest. The biggest one that I'm interested in see how the refs manage to cope with it is only the captain and the player who's involved in the incident is allowed to speak or to approach the referee during an on-field incident. In the likes of Man United, Arsenal,
that's the Man United rule. Yeah, that's what that rule is.
Bullshit rule, that one.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that, because it is a bad look for especially young players watching the sport if that as soon as a referee makes a decision, which could be the right decision, and then just gets surrounded by 10 players. Like, it's a horrible look, and I can understand the where they come from to implement that. I can't understand why you can't have 2 people in the technical area. That's got me absolutely stuffed. Like, I don't know why.
Really baffling, that one.
Like, you can nominate. Why can't you just nominate 2 people at the start of the game on the team sheet or whatever you hand into the officials to say, yes, we give. If it's us, it's Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall will be our 2 staff in the technical area for the game and things like that. What happens if it's a rollicking game? Imagine it's the Nottingham Forest game from last season at Nottingham Forest, right? Hugely controversial game and things like that, and tensions and emotions are just really at boiling point. And then that goal from the Slim Reaper, that penalty goes in. There's absolute jubilation in injury time, and there's 7 coaching staff that get a yellow card because they've ran in to hug Eddie Howe after that. Like that's preposterous. That is absolutely
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Couldn't
And
agree more.
you're taking the emotion. Like these guys work, what we're led to believe, these coaches work 12 hours a day to be with these players and improve the players. And when they
Mm-hmm.
see something like this happen, they're expected just to sit down and clap. Like
Nah.
it's absolutely farcical. Like I don't get it, and no argument that anyone presents to me will change my mind that this is a good idea.
I completely agree. Completely agree. It's of all the new rules that they've brought in, that is easily the worst. I can understand the players surrounding the ref. That's a good rule, but I don't know how
Yeah,
they're going to enforce it. That's a thing. But yeah, the technical box with only the one manager in there and nobody else, that is an absolute piss take of a rule.
yeah. It makes zero sense to me. And like I said, two, yeah, absolutely. Like you have two because
Yeah.
a lot of managers do have a real someone definitely in the coaching staff that they kind of lean on a lot more than what the other coaches are. I think every club would kind of have them. So to be able to not use them as counsel during the game, like I don't think the way that we sort of operate our match day coaching staff is like detrimental or like it doesn't add any spice and flavor to the touchline. Like we're no different to anyone. So how like I'm sure most people are aware that sort of how they do it is that Eddie kind of watches the game, analyzes it, and Mad Dog sort of helps him along the way, and they sort of work together. If there's any sort of thing that needs to talk to a fourth official, Mad Dog does that. And I've never understood the arguing to the fourth official. I don't know what that achieves. He hasn't made the
Yeah.
decision. I can understand asking the question to say, "Hey, what was that for?" And then, I mean, he can relay that to the on-field referee and say, "What was that for?" Blah blah blah, and then they can communicate back to the coaches and they're aware of it. But in terms of arguing and things like that, I don't get it. I don't understand it, and I think you can easily sort of mitigate that by if you're going to start blowing up a decision, then you'll get the yellow card. Then you know
Yeah.
what I mean. So
Yeah.
you can just mitigate that exactly the same as what the on-field stuff is. If you surround the referee, you get a yellow card. Then if you the same thing, if you sort of maybe intimidate's not the right word, but maybe it is. If you intimidate and
Throw your weight
sort of
around.
yeah put the fourth official offside, then you'll be sanctioned as well. So like
But
there's easy ways to get around this stuff without having to just throw everyone and sit and clap on the bench now.
it's not just Big Dog that does it. Mad Dog, sorry, that does it for us. Also got Graham Jones. He's often quite animated from the bench as well.
Yeah.
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 So, but I mean, they're all on it's the same for every club. You're passionate about the club. You want to get up. You want to celebrate. You want
Yeah, of
to
course.
appeal
Yeah.
decisions. You want to do whatever, But like you say, you'd have to sit on the bench now and just sit on your hands. It's a load
Yeah.
of bollocks. It really is.
Like just clap like you're at the tennis. Like
Yeah.
if
I mean,
you
I
see something
understand
you
refs
like.
and officials need protection. That's fair enough. But this is the wrong way to go about it.
Yeah.
It's too strict,
And
too quick.
yeah, well you can't look the players, I think players aren't dumb. So there might be some teething problems in the first week or two,
Hmm.
but they'll quickly switch on that shit, I've already got 2 yellow cards in the first 2 weeks for doing this. I need to stop. And I reckon that's why Man United have made Bruno Fernandes their captain, just purely because he was going to do it anyway. So
Yeah.
they've probably saved themselves 38 yellow cards for him in a season by making him the captain. But for the rest of it, and I think for us, Kieran Trippier is the one that talks to the referee. How many times you see him every game actually usher the players away?
Yeah.
Just sort of say, no, look, it's all right. I'll deal with this. I've got it. And then he'll talk to the official, and he seems really calm and he's composed when he's talking to the official about whatever's just happened. But it's just, yeah, it's madness. The whole coaching stuff is absolute madness. And like I
A
said,
prime example, sorry to blab on about this one, is can you remember the Man United away game at Old Trafford where Man United thought they had scored and you had
yeah,
everyone bar
Ronaldo,
their keeper. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
Ronaldo thought he scored and everyone
yeah,
bar their keeper was right around the ref.
yeah.
And so if that was the case then, 8 of those players should have been given a yellow card. based on this rule that's coming in.
And it was a horrible look.
It was.
It was an absolute horrible look. So if we can get out of the game and encourage more young people, I guess, to take up refereeing, it's a good thing because we need referees. And if you sort of take the look at the player, where if you start them young and you teach them young, they'll be better and so much better by the time they're adults and things like that, and they can progress through the ranks. So if you can encourage more referees to join up at a younger age, that's a great thing. But in terms of the coaching, it's just nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Yeah, completely agree.
So yeah, that's our Monday night. That's our Monday night rant out of the way. Yeah. So I think, have you got anything else, mate, to add that's sort of happened over the weekend and things like that you want to bring up?
There's just the imminent signing of Tino.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope he rocks up to the Gallagher wearing a big fur coat and it starts snowing, just like his namesake. That would be impressive, but I can't see it happening. Saying that, it's quite cold back here. My mother sends a message saying she'll put a heating on, and it's in August. So,
yeah, well, some of the pictures we're seeing from the weekend, it was miserable. Like,
throwing it down in some parts, but
yeah,
Tino, it looks like it's just waiting for the imminent arrival of that tweet or Facebook message from any of the social content. He looks like he's going to be a new player. There's a little bit of contention as to where he's going to be playing, right back or left back, but we'll let Eddie make that decision. But yeah, that's another one in the bag, it looks like, and we just hopefully Eddie wants another 2 players in before the window, according to his presser. Whether he'll get them or not, we will see.
Yeah, I'd honestly settle for one. If we can get a decent right centre back in, I think we've had a really good window already. But if we can get a right centre back in, sort of along the Botman mould, not so much as a player, but more of a ball playing right centre back of a youngish age, I think that we've had an unbelievable window. And then I think we've seen Kieran Trippier at international level also sort of fill in that left back role. So perhaps he can offer cover. Emil Kraft seems like he's going to be back to full fitness in a matter of weeks after that ACL injury last year. So we do have options, like you said. I think we're just a little bit thin in that right centre-back role. I mean, Dan Burn can cover the left centre-back role if, heaven forbid, Sven Botman gets injured. So, yeah, if we can sort of sort that out before the end of the transfer window, I think we've had an amazing window.
And we're pretty much close to that 2 starting 11s then.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, couldn't agree more, mate. But that'll do for us tonight, mate. Thanks for your time. Everyone, again, jump on YouTube. We need 11 more subs to get to 1,400. We'd love to get them before this weekend's game against Aston Villa. So if you haven't already, give us a subscribe to our channel. Tell your friends and family as well. That'll be fantastic. And join Jack later on in the week for our first Aston Villa, or our first preview for the weekend. He's got a special guest from an Aston Villa fan, I think from a podcast in Australia. So he'll be all across their new signings as well. So stick around for that. But we'll say it again, if you haven't, subscribe to the channel, get us to 1,400 before kickoff, and that would be absolutely massive. Craig, thank you again for your time, mate. I really appreciate it.
Anytime, mate. See you on the next one.
We'll see you next week. Well, me and Craig will probably see you next week anyway, but Jack will be on later on in the week. All right, so we'll catch you all later. Thanks for watching or listening.